township board?
Workshop.
We can,
Workshop?
otherwise we have an agenda for the workshop.
We do.
Do you have it?
No.
It's on the thing.
Is it?
Go down.
We'll start off the workshop. The first item on the workshop is Trinity Church will be hosting their festival on August 24th, 2020. There will be music played from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is on the council agenda to approve. They won't be going past 10 o'clock, but it's just a music approval. The official letter was received today from the local union 160 for union negotiations for city staff. Negotiations will start in September. In your packet tonight is the following notices. The primary election will be held on August 9th at the Legion from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Notice of filing for public office is August 2nd, 2022 to August 16, 2020 at City Hall. The fee is $2. On the ballot this year, we'll have mayor for a 4-year term, 2 council members for a 4-year term, and 1 council member for a 2-year term. So the next item that I have on the workshop is the Madelia Township would like to discuss the condition of the road going out of town to the west. Larry McMullen received quotes for the township from WW Blacktopping for this work. They are in your council packet. The amount came in at $39,241.92, and that would be half. Half of that would be our responsibility, right, Bob? Or how much for half of that? So about $20,000 would be our responsibility for that road. There is also a seal coat quote on here. Just want to make it known that the seal coat work came in at $2.95 per square foot. Just to put that in perspective, our quote this year from Pearson's was only at $1.55. And the reason I state that is that kind of markup on the top half also. Currently on our street budget is our street maintenance budget is at $16,000 for the year. We have currently already used $3,000 of it, so we are only sitting at $13,000 for the year. If we would join forces with this, that means $20,000, so we would be over budget in that area. At this time, I'll have the council discuss it with the township.
So how bad is that road?
Well, something is gonna have to be done with it.
This year, or can't wait till next?
Well, I suppose you could patch it up again and try to wait another year. I talked to Larry and he didn't feel real good on these numbers. Originally it was $33,000. They wanted to do this stretch from the railroad track out to the, property line thing. Well, they jacked it up $6,000.
Sure.
Since their numbers, and I guess at that point, he just didn't like that, and
That's understandable.
he, says, well,
I know that oil pricing and bituminous oil products right now are kinda all over the board.
yeah,
I can get some numbers for what we're currently paying from, per ton or per square yard, and kinda compare them to what they sent. But I think I'd be more comfortable if we put, or tried to put $20,000 into this project, into the line item in the budget for next year. We're gonna start going through our budgeting here for probably next two meetings from now? Workshops, or you got a next workshop already?
Yeah, it's tonight we started on certain funds and we got it on the next couple of
I mean,
days.
if we know it's gonna be in that $40,000 range, I think we could, my guess is too, and everybody that I've talked to, we're probably looking at, we actually got pretty good pricing in New Ulm through MR for this year's bituminous, but I think talking to some other people, they're kind of thinking that next year it's probably gonna be closer to pre-COVID maybe because of the oil fluctuation. nobody can say for sure, but even in the future, the diesel pricing and all that stuff, it's kind of coming back down the fall. I don't.
We don't, you know, it's not a disaster today.
Right.
We don't want to do it if we're looking at the top of the market. You know,
Right.
you don't wanna pay through the nose for something.
Right.
If you could buy a little time, you know, we'd like to get it done because, well, we don't have a lot of money to fool around with.
Sure.
Just like the, you know, overlay or whatever, you could put an overlay on this thing, you know, but that portion of it is just all checkerboarded.
Yeah,
and
seal coat.
Nobody wants to do that. The part from the city property where the line is to the cemetery could be seal coated.
Yeah.
And it's not in a terrible state, but, you know, we too need to spend about so many dollars each year on certain things, and we can't go out here and spend $100,000 on roads.
Sure.
Because we don't have that kind of money to play around with.
So,
What you try to do is take 20,000 or 30,000 or some such numbers and, you know, do a little bit each year, and it doesn't bite you so bad.
So is there a frost boil underneath this section that needs to be fixed or something that made it checkered? Or is it just the age?
I'm sure that's,
There's that frost boil that's right by the marker that we should take a look at.
it's old and, then there's some doggone farmers that run up and down there with semis sometimes.
That happens.
Equipment has definitely gotten bigger over the years.
You wouldn't
You
know
gotta get it.
anybody that owns those, would you?
I don't know any
No.
of them, but. No, we try to watch that, you know, but, something should be done, you know, before long here. You know, you'd like to fix it before it's 100% shot.
Right, cause then it reverts back to a bumpy gravel road or a gravel section.
And there is nobody gonna be happy going out to the cemetery
No.
if there's a blacktop road the rest of the way. You know, that's why that was done. Do you remember that barber, Ernie Jensen?
Yep,
He put the money in there to, or
really?
he put a bunch of the money in there to blacktop that road because he wanted to see it blacktop.
You know, like get his Cadillac dirty.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Dust free. He didn't.
So that would have been in the early '70s too, wouldn't it?
Well, it probably would, you know, it was, you know,
When the money was still flowing.
well, that guy had money to burn. You know, that was no more than a scratch on his hind end to do something like that. If you guys can remember him, you know.
Yeah, he did like his white Cadillacs.
you know.
so the quantity difference in seal coat from our price that we got for our quantity to their price is roughly $18,000 on that job alone.
That's
other-
nuts.
The other thing we could do is we could have Ben figure
Yeah,
that project into next year's seal coating, so that our quantities look better. Usually the more you put down, the better price you're gonna get.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on, and then we can set aside, or at least put it into the preliminary budget for the 20,000 for road repair there. But we would still have to go out for a competitive bid process
Oh, yeah.
to do it anyways.
the other thing is the railroad and the right of way and dealing with that. I guess I am not educated enough to deal with the permits that are all involved, and so if we're going out for bid, I still need an engineer that's gonna have to be involved in this.
Yeah, so maybe we can reach out and see what that would look like. I mean, the other thing is if you could seal coat it from there out and milk the, you know, the portion in until the Joy Main project and see if we can add it on to whoever gets that contract bid or as a secondary. That might
And
make,
then the engineering fees go with that project
right, that'd be
versus
2024
being its own separate project.
before we get that. I mean, we could try to roll it all together, but that'd be 2024 And I don't know, I haven't been on
I
it.
don't think it'll last 2024. Almost gotta be done next spring, because I don't think it'll make another year after that.
Well, I suppose if we put a Band-Aid on it again, you know, take some,
I mean, even if they top
patch
dressed it
the
and seal
holes
coated
and-
it next year
And then ripped it up in 2024.
and replace the bad section, it might be,
So we'd seal coat it.
okay, you would not seal coat this portion that's.
I
bad.
probably wouldn't waste the
No.
money on seal coating it, I'd
Nope.
just leave it, and then that would be where you'd replace it in 2024,
It needs to be, it's probably 2 inches of blacktop.
okay?
It needs to be that 2 inches taken off, and then maybe a 2-inch wear and a 2-inch base put down. And that we should be able to get done for the numbers that we're talking about. After the first, what did it end up being, 300 to 500 feet? How many feet was it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I only brought this one down, I don't know.
If it's
What does Larry have on the last?
First 300 feet.
Okay.
First 300 feet city and township.
Okay,
that's
if it's
60 feet
300
wide, or is
that's
it 40?
fine.
Is it 60 or 40 wide?
That I don't know.
I do not
See
have
the-
that one.
I bet you it's 40.
From that point, from that 300
Run
foot
it
mark
in.
or whatever the footage is from the railroad tracks, the rest of that would be the township's responsibility.
Sure.
You know, it's not, city doesn't have to, they just have the first 300-400 feet, whatever that is.
Right, and I guess what I'm telling you is that we could figure in the seal coat in our bid and then figure out what your portion of that seal coat was, and probably get you a heck of a lot better price than $295. Because we were paying the mobilization for them to come anyway,
Yep.
so I don't think there would be any issues with that as long as it was whatever would have to be drawn up for a more mutual beneficial agreement or whatever, just to make sure that there's.
But the other thing is the county also, because I know the county does some other and other sections of your township. Is that correct for seal coat? Or not?
I don't know, I didn't know.
I think we need to sit down with Teal too, I mean, I don't know.
How is the crossing? I haven't been out there. Is the crossing decent or is that
The
terrible too?
crossing is great, they just
It is.
redid
They
it.
just-
They did redo it?
Yes.
Okay.
And
But
when they
it's-
redid it, that made the rest of those fissures get bigger, because they had that equipment when they set all the stuff in place.
But they'll know exactly where they need to start from and end.
Yeah,
then.
I would think so.
That will be,
And the railroad doesn't assume any liability when they work next to the road right of ways.
I'm sure not.
Alright,
but if it can last until next year, I would propose putting a $20,000 line item in the preliminary budget anyway, and then we'll talk to, cause realistically, it could be less than that.
could be less, but it could be
Yeah.
more having Adam involved.
Well, that's the other thing too, he could probably have a lot better idea of the longevity of the remainder of the road too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being able to look at it and kinda get a, cause if it would last till the Joy West Main project work date, then you're gonna get a lot better product out of it than having WW or MR or anybody come in and just do a 300, it's basically a 300 by 40 patch is what they're charging you for.
I'm sorry.
Where if the company that had the paving there came in, they'd definitely make sure that it was, probably exactly what, and if it's a company that's gonna mill the existing bituminous, they might mill it, lay it down, and then, use it as base under the existing too, which is gonna give you a better end product. So, it's something we can definitely look into. I'd talk to Teal and talk to Adam and just kinda see what it would look like.
Well, we can't keep putting it off too long.
No,
Because then,
And
all of a
they've-
sudden we got junk.
great.
And we'll need to, does the city have any blacktop mix that, somehow or another, the existing, some of the holes that are in it maybe can be patched from time to time?
They do all the cold patch, but who do we bring in normally? Who have we brought in the last
For the
couple
hot?
times with the hot patch?
Let me talk to Ben, a lot of times bring in the county to do our big patching. That's why I think we need to talk to Teal about everything. And I think we all need to sit in the same room and discuss it to make sure that we're not overstepping each other's territory.
But yeah, that'd probably make the most sense. You're gonna get a better product overall the more tonnage you can bring in at once. Because my guess is the Joy Main, they'll have a temporary plant somewhere pretty close by. And then you're gonna get it hot off the truck instead of 30 miles, 40 miles away.
Alright, to continue our discussions, who would be, joining me with Teal and Adam to discuss going forward?
Sure.
You will?
Sure,
Arlo, will
agrees.
you be, okay,
Sure, yeah, we will.
alright. So I'll set up a meeting and we'll just kinda discuss, just so that we continue this discussion, so it does get done, so.
Is there any other improvements that should be done out of there for drainage or anything else that might be needed as part of the project? Nothing's holding water, everything's draining culvert wise and everything else?
Looks to me like everything works.
Okay.
So temporarily, I'll put 20,000 for this project for next year's budget for the street department.
I just wanna make sure that we're not putting a new road over something that's gonna be a problem
Yep.
down the road. So,
Don't worry.
But-
We know enough
Right,
about it.
right.
You know, we're not road builders, but we know enough about it. that
Right.
I would not let
yeah, as
something
long
like
as
that
there's no,
happen.
no ponding or issues there and there isn't a
Nope.
huge frost.
No, that got fixed a few years back.
So,
Anything else on that?
If not, what's next on my list?
Budget.
And we're starting with,
Starting with golf, park, and swimming pool.
thanks, Arlo.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
Alright, in front of you, we have lots and lots of numbers. So, here, just some more copies.
she's different.
Jim, you want one? Michelle want one? Probably.
Alright, so the first one is golf, and I just wanna point out that on this thing, I have all of the numbers back to 2014. And the one thing we have going for us this year is obviously our memberships have never been as high as they are this year. So currently we're at $54,833.84. Right now, as we sit to date, and it probably doesn't have today's deposit in, nor does it have the transfers for alcohol. But as we sit, we're $2,000 in the hole right now for the golf course, and that is even paying for the lawnmower. That was 26,000, and also paying for the cart lease payment, and that's 10,000. You're sitting very, very nice, but I want everybody to remember that in a moment's notice, it can all be taken away from us after a 10-inch rain. So.
Let's
Well,
hope
that was kind of
I know, but
for us.
I just want everybody to remember
Don't
that.
even get too happy because it's gonna like knock your.
Let's
you know,
wait till
whatever
after
you're
the
doing.
10th, please. Let's get park days out of the way.
Yes, I wanna say that, the golf course is doing amazing. We are very fortunate this year. So,
And last year wasn't too bad either.
No, so when we go back and look through what we've lost over the years, in 2020 and 2021, we only saw a $20,000 loss, or $27,000 loss both of those years. You know, previous years before that was 75 on up for losses, so we
How much of
have,
that was COVID though?
actually 2020 and 2020 is our COVID year, and we operated very, very minimal.
Even 2021, we were just coming out of it.
Yep,
Things are a lot freer now than they were even a year ago.
yep. So,
Well, there's some other things that are kind of hard to quantify in some of those previous totals. I mean, there was a year where Plaza was the clubhouse.
yeah,
There was a year where we were underwater for 2.5 months. I mean, there's been some pretty devastating numbers
Literally
there.
underwater.
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say, in a heartbeat it can be taken away from us. We should really appreciate this
But
year.
yes, it is.
This is, it's beautiful, and we're getting back to
Trending,
normal.
it's trending in a.
Right, and Plaza was there for the whole summer, the 1 year, and that adds, you know, takes away some of the golfing opportunity.
So I would ask you this question.
But it keeps fun though.
Given all the rain we've got this year, this has been one of the rainiest seasons we've had. Why didn't the golf course flood?
Because when the ice went out of the river went dry.
I mean,
There was no water left in the river quit flowing, so it could absorb 10 to 12 inches, but
it has a lot less.
there was a
to do
little
when
mud
we
when
get
you
the
walked
rain,
across
a lot
the,
more to do with what
right
we
below
do.
the dam this spring, it
St.
just,
James,
That's
the west
what I
of
would
here.
understand.
and it's almost to that point again.
So right now, as you look at it, and these are for you to take and mark up or whatever, because we can go through every single line item in regards to where our budget should be. If you guys see something that should be increased or decreased, other than salaries, insurance, things that I gotta put a formula to, those are what I need for you to jot down.
Well, my first thought would be this golf shelter fee. If we're going to be marketing our new structure, are you gonna put it under that line item, or are you gonna create its own line item?
Well, like to create more revenue for us.
Right?
Right now, I'm very modest in regards to how much revenue I bring in, so I say $1,000. And as you can see, in 2021, we brought in 4,300, and now to the date, right now, we're at 2,600.
But moving forward, that shelter will probably rent for $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah, where we can.
So even if it's sick, I mean, I guess I would look at increasing that line item on the revenue side.
Okay,
But that being said, there's definitely, we're gonna have to look at staffing moving forward, cause I guess at some point, I think we should discuss what we're gonna do as far as if we're gonna have actual options spelled out for rental. So if it's, once that shelter's up, if it's gonna be, you know, shelter plus staff, which is
Oh, an actual
bartender.
contract where it's
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
broken down, yes.
and have those contracts kind of spelled out, and then we can start pre-booking.
And that needs to be, and
But I don't know, are you thinking you're gonna wanna keep that in golf revenue, or do you wanna put that in its own revenue space?
I think it would stay in golf, but we can itemize it out to its own thing so we
Cause
can
I've
watch.
already talked to some people that are maybe interested in the farmer's market portion,
Mhm.
maybe some, you know, organized citywide garage sale stuff.
But then we have to look at, so for instance, in, my previous places, I did a different fee structure, for schools that utilized it
Sure.
versus the residents versus, non-residents, and you see that in New
Yep.
Ulm, where there's different fees for all the different, organizations.
Cause if the farmer's market, you couldn't charge them $100 because they wouldn't, they wouldn't come down to the,
Right.
But you want everybody to utilize it.
You want everybody to come and make welcome, yes.
So, my thought process would be, if we're going to utilize it as much as possible, we should probably kind of start developing those fee structures so that we have them in place. And then if somebody, for instance, wants to come in and do baseball camp or a softball camp or a golf clinic, and they want to utilize the space with nets or whatever, we kind of have an idea of what that's going to look like from a cost and a staffing perspective to start with.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily know that that's gonna necessarily be your job, but it's maybe something we should bring up to the golf board
Oh,
too.
I've already done
Or you've
it.
already got most of it done?
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Okay. That, which puts me at my next question in regards to I can create everything, it's as somebody to implement it.
Right.
And that is what I see as being one of my struggles at this point is, as you see, I have golf, I have park, and I have pool. As we expand all of our sites, I feel that I need more attention or somebody to oversee all of it as a whole. And I will just point out, not only the golf is doing very, very well, but if you go to the park, the one that I'm gonna point out is the camping fees. And if you look over and you look at 2021, 2021, we have never seen that much money. 2021, we made $52,000, just alone in our camping fees. In the previous years, we've only seen 30, our high was 40. So as we go forward with the new 28 sites and going online with online reservations and the POS system that's supposed to be hooked between the campground and the golf course and stuff, I just would like to see maybe a little bit more of a permanent structure of an individual that can help me out with all of this. Same goes with the pool. As we look at the pool too, right now, our season tickets, we're sitting, 9,000, we're sitting right up there as 2021 and 2018, we sit very strong. There's a lot of things going on and they're not going down, so.
So with those fee structures and stuff in place, can we put together some projected revenues when those 28 sites come online and that event structure comes online? And we can kind of see what we're looking at from a revenue standpoint, and then compare those numbers to previous years as far as what they would look like with those incomes and a acceptable loss that we've had in the past. I don't want to take anything away. I don't necessarily. I mean, we've had this conversation over the last 10 years. The park and park amenities, the pool, the campground, the golf course are all a draw to this community. I don't necessarily think that they need to be I'd love them to be a break-even proposition, but I don't mind if they're, a slight loss. But I do understand that it's becoming a greater and greater job responsibility.
Yes.
So that I think I guess what I'm saying is if we can figure out how to pay a full-timer and still, do
Full-time
everything down
seasonal
there.
or full-time,
That's the
year round?
problem. No, Mike, you have to understand, our season starts in February and goes to November. So they get 2 down months, not even down months, because December is our membership drive.
Well, and the other thing is we've already talked about,
We're open during the winter, I'm down there for Christmas parties.
we've already talked about flooding the event center for a indoor skating rink or a
That too.
covered skating rink, so, there's, plus the marketing side, I've talked to numerous people that were kinda disappointed in the way that the current, scheduling for sites and stuff fills up. Is it January 1 or what date does it actually open? Yes.
It's been like that for the last,
Yeah, so if
How many
people,
years?
Are you talking about the golf course or the?
no, campground.
Campground.
So January 1, the campground sites open up.
Mhm.
Everybody calls in and books everything that they want for their season or
Season.
whatever. And then everything's full for all the busiest times, and none of the good sites with full hookups or anything are available for those times. And they're like, we called, 6 months in advance, and it was still. And it's not anybody's fault, but if you don't know about that,
Yeah.
then you have that.
So now with going online though, it's gonna flag you. When you're online trying to do that, it's gonna flag you. Reservations open up on January 1st.
Right.
And they don't have to call anymore.
Well, and it's a lot easier to account for all the money if all the reservations are already booked and,
Mhm.
everything's already kind of
This,
figured out.
this.
So even with going forward, when the website thing is up, it'll be, you have to go online and do it. It's not gonna say, you're not gonna take reservations over the phone
You
and put it
can-
into the computer.
Yeah, she
I would-
can take them over the phone, but she'll put them right into the system. That's
She'd
the
just be
only way you
she'd
can
just
book
be
'em.
using the app over the phone at
Yeah.
the same time.
That way, if somebody else is sitting on the couch somewhere and wants to put something in, it's going to take it. I mean, that's
Right.
the whole point of it. And it should be no different than going, there, I mean, this thing is pretty slick. You actually go on and you can actually pick your site.
Yeah, that's fine. I
And
guess
then-
what I'm getting at is why not just, instead of taking them, if she takes them and then has to enter them and there's something.
We don't want them to call.
I know,
We
I know,
want
but
them
why
to go
wouldn't you just
online.
tell them you have to go online and do it?
Some elder
Because
people
you
don't
got elder
have,
people,
yeah.
you got people that need help.
Oh,
You got a lot of
Everybody's got a
people that need
smartphone
help,
now.
Cody, that don't use internet and
Everybody's
they
got a smartphone.
still don't have a smartphone and, but they have really nice campers, Cody.
Yeah, we got one.
And they have a lot of money.
So anyways, but we'll come back to the table this next round and I can get you somewhat of some projections. I mean, we'll just focus on golf, park, and,
So how many sites are there currently, at this number, how many sites are there currently open?
23, right?
well, there's gonna be 80-some sites total.
No.
But this number that's here right now, how many are we renting to get there?
23, isn't it, full hookups?
What's our thing for?
Uh-huh.
I can't even, because there's the special events where then we put the sites that are on the soccer field and everything.
But the
There's
full
more
hookup
sites.
sites
The
are the
full hookups,
expensive.
I believe, are
So you're
23.
basically
23.
doubling this campground number
Yes.
Yes.
from a revenue standpoint to
Yes.
start with.
For
So,
full
and
service,
my
yes.
question is not so much whether or not we go to the new system. Out of the total sites available on a daily basis, how many are we gonna save for the people that drive off the road and want a spot? Any? Or is it gonna be 100% reservation like all the other campgrounds and you can't get in anymore? So you gotta drive 100 miles before you get a campsite. It's happening every day. Because
Yeah.
everybody's gone
Guaranteed.
to,
Yeah, I know, the issue with holding it open is,
Yeah,
You
it's
might
not
not fill.
guaranteed, yeah.
Mhm.
those
You're
people
gonna
that wanna
guarantee
reserve might
revenue,
say,
we're gonna
well,
take
screw it,
it.
we're gonna take us and
all
the
I
other five
want
people and go
is
somewhere else."
unity in the whole council that says we're doing 100% reservations, everything can be done by reservations. And when it's full, it's full.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
So as long as it's clear how to get the reservations, so to your point, if somebody pulls off and they want to have a reservation at the last minute, they can still do that.
no, they wanna pull off and get a site, but it's 100% reservation, so there's no sites available.
But
No,
as long as you allow instantaneous
I don't-
reservations
Yeah,
for
that's what I'm
vacant
talking,
sites.
thank you, that's what I'm talking about, cause I think that will happen.
Why do you think that we're gonna be like
Almost
completely?
every municipal campground in the area allows 100% reservations.
With 24-hour notice, or is it 48, or what?
I don't know what the time is anymore,
I
but
think
you
we
can't pull into
keep it-
municipal anymore.
Keep it open for instantaneous
Yeah,
reservations.
instantaneous reservation,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Well, that's how it is now.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, no, I think we keep
Yeah.
it the same.
So I
it
don't
wasn't,
see the problem.
But see, then when you drive through the campground a week ago on a Saturday night, all our sites were full.
Oh.
Did we get paid for those sites because they were all booked? Did we
No,
get
but
paid
that's-
for those spots?
That's changing too. When you make your reservation, you're
You
paying
pay
for it
online.
no matter if you're there or not.
But that's the problem right now, they're full.
You're saying we should be able to double book them.
Well, no, you should only book one because you can only sell 100% of what you have. You can't sell 200% of what you have. But some people are booking reservations in multiple campgrounds.
But they're all paying up front now.
Are they-
moving
With
forward?
moving forward,
They'll be paying for the reservation. in
Oh,
its
you're
entirety.
thinking they're reserving but not paying.
Oh, everybody's
well, they're
gotta
not
pay.
coming in.
They have to
Everybody's gonna
prepay.
put a.
Yeah, they have to
deposit.
Reserve and then don't come.
So those sites were
Yeah.
paid for.
And-
Yeah, and then if somebody were to come in,
And
Then
they
they
don't
just
show
pay.
up,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, now I got it.
Our
So they were
deposit
paid
is
for.
non-refundable for a certain point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Anyway, it's 7:00.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the workshop.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay.